Hi everybody, welcome back to my look at key concepts and theories in philosophical and social history. Today I'm going to look at a concept that has gained much prominence throughout the 20th century. This is something called reflexivity. To examine this concept, I'm going to look at a video game from 2016, Playdead's Inside. Through this examination, I believe we'll begin to understand the importance of reflexivity in philosophical and social thought, and also why art can be an important medium as a teacher for broader ideas in society, that it may deliver these ideas in ways we can emotionally respond to, and finally that video games are an untapped potential as an aesthetic experience. So with this in mind, let's start thinking about what reflexivity is. So to start thinking about reflexivity, I'm going to consider quantum physics. In the 1950s, the German physicist Werner Heisenberg, the name given to Walter White's chemistry mastermind in Breaking Bad, was observing and theorizing the actions of subatomic particles using early electron microscopes, having already discovered their existence in the 1920s when he won the Nobel Prize. What Heisenberg began to now understand was that quantum physics could no longer easily fit into the natural sciences of the old, for the simple reason that Heisenberg discovered that, when observed, the very nature of these subatomic particles, being so sensitive to any stimulus due to their size, fundamentally changed them. In other words, what were they before observation? Is there a pure world that is always beyond what we see, as is the very moment that when we see it and look at it, it shifts from the very presence of our observation? This sort of discovery has radical implications on all sorts of fields and disciplines in Western scientific thought, including anthropology and sociological studies. No longer is it possible simply to study a long-lost tribe as though one is documenting their authentic rituals. Instead, one is documenting a long-lost tribe performing rituals in the presence of an anthropologist. And this immediately calls into question all sorts of propositions regarding matters such as truth and authenticity. For instance, an ancient fire ritual done by a long-lost tribe is no longer an authentic fire ritual as done over a millennia ago. It is now an authentic fire ritual done under observation of someone else being there. This is a crucial and important difference, as it signifies the world is in constant state of change, development and reinvention, where even being an impartial observer has an active function in the world. Let's look at perhaps one of the most famous paintings in Western art history, Las Meninas by Diego Velázquez. Painted in 1656, Las Meninas is a portrait of the Spanish royal family, most prominently of Margaret Teresa, daughter of Philip IV, and Mariana of Austria, who both appear in the painting on the back wall of the room. To the side of the painting we see a large easel and Velázquez himself. Clearly there is a large mirror on the wall, and Velázquez wishes to capture a portrait of the young princess in the active throes of daily life, including being painted by the royal artist. Here we have Velázquez watching himself reflexively as he considers who he is in this royal network. Is he just a painter? An affectionate member of the royal house? Everything is blurred, including his static identity. This is reflexivity, the continual awareness we are in our own work, that we are also in the world, and the world is reacting to us and us with it. So let's now turn to this video game that I've talked about. Well, let me just say now that this analysis will include spoilers and theories of the game, so please play it first if you are interested in doing so. Inside is a 2016 game developed by Playdead Software, a Danish development company fronted by Dino Patti and Arndt Jensen, who have recently parted ways. The game is a 2D platformer whereby the player must overcome certain obstacles and puzzles in order to progress through the game. The player can basically only go one way, excluding hidden rooms or when puzzles require some backtracking, but the story is quite linear in its nature. So let's start by examining this story. In the game we play as a small boy who is seemingly some sort of escapee. From the very beginning there are guards and dogs that will try and kill the boy on sight, and we must continually dodge and escape from death at every moment. The initial feeling is the boy has escaped from some sort of concentration camp and is being viciously tracked down by what are quasi-SS soldiers. As the boy escapes through farmlands and finally into the city, we begin to observe robotic-like humanoid figures that bumble unconsciously about, and then well-to-do humans that seem to be living a normal, full life on the periphery of these. This escalates so much so that at one point in the game the player must act as though it is a ragdoll with the other dummies, and if for but a moment the player hesitates or makes a wrong move or run for it, the boy will be immediately killed. We begin to understand we are a ragdoll who has apparently become conscious and must be terminated if caught. We even understand how the ragdoll works, where at one stage we wear a device that allows us to have our own brainless slaves to control, in order to achieve meaningless tasks. On one hand, we watch them bumble about and feel that they are a completely disposable resource, but on the other hand, we are one of them and feel empathy for their manipulated position and know that they too, like us, have the capacity for rational thought. We progress through mines, ruins of ancient cities and peoples long forgotten, and finally we come to a giant scientific laboratory. As we enter, we notice all the scientists crowded around a giant tank, watching something out of view. We find a way into the dome that they are watching, and inside is a blob bound to suctions. We pull them off as there is nothing else we can do, and the blob sucks us in and becomes free. We can tell that the blob is made of mashed together dummies. And just like we are the brain of the boy, once inside the blob, we take over it. Given our now monumental strength compared to being just the boy, we escape and frenetically find our way through a maze of tunnels and service passages, where for some reason people help us progress, even sometimes manipulating us. Finally, in a chance moment, we spot sunlight breaking through a wall. We crash through it and tumble down a large mountain, where horrifically and fatally we land at the bottom, having escaped, but where we may eternally rest on a peaceful beach. Finally, the ordeal is over, we have escaped, and we now may rest. But boy, does this all look quite familiar. Going back just a few minutes as the blob, I can certainly recall this scene on the beach. And then there is this hidden room that on the wall seems to very accurately mark my progress, including telling me that the game is almost over. Why do the scientists seem to aid us more at the end, yet still seem to think as though we were some sort of thoughtless being? Can't they tell we are actually thinking inside? We are goaded along, made to perform menial puzzles and tasks, and in the final act of humiliation, try and reach a box dangling to us like a carrot, that we then fall into an obvious pit below. The great tank we fall into feels as though it must be our final tomb. But wait, there's a hidden vent. We are free, we've tricked them. But the room we find ourselves in feels like the back of a stage with ropes and timber beams holding up a prop. We tumble out of it and into the calm light. But now we remember this miniature of this exact moment. The entire thing is a staged event. We never left the facility, we're in the middle of it, and instead it seems we have completed some sort of precise ritual. Is then the game just a series of very precise tests, without our knowledge that we are given control of one of the mindless humanoids? Our mission is to get to the blob without being destroyed. If we are able to achieve this, then the blob is activated with the ability to think, as we are now its brain. With this event occurring, we escape, which results in the blob and the boy's death, and the ritual is now complete. This is where we can now think about reflexivity a bit. We, as the player, are actually a core part of this ritual occurring, yet how much were we needed? The game is completely linear, and all one faces is a series of tests and puzzles, but our actual skill itself, despite the game ingeniously making us believe otherwise, is really actually minimal to the outcome of the ritual occurring. While we were believing to be the boy, role-playing as him, in actuality, we realised that we were controlling the boy in the same way that the boy can control the other humanoids to do mindless tricks. This is reflexivity at a very refined level, where it springs up so many questions. How often are we culpable to things without realising it? How ingrained within us is a class system that believes those, like in Nazism, who are not a part of the middle class are like brainless peons? In this age of computers, where a drone can wipe out an entire family controlled from a ship 700 kilometres away, where is the line of responsibility anymore, where so much action is always indirect? What I love most about this game is that we are never privy in the slightest at why this massive ritual occurs at all. Why does the blob has to get to the beach and die in the exact spot under this fake artificial light? Instead, all we know is that the boy gets to the blob, becomes the blob, and the blob dies on the fake beach. Is it a precise experiment? Does this happen every full moon equinox so the gods will bless the next decade of harvests? We don't know, and we can't know because we are so far outside of this society. The only way that we may actually have power in this game is by doing a secret ending, whereby when all the orbs are activated, we go down below the farm and pull a cord that shuts down our control of the boy. This means we are not trapped in a linear pathway to complete this mindless ritual. This shows us two things. On the one hand is the obvious realization that the boy isn't us, but is just a mindless drone like the rest, but is activated for the ritual of which we are now a part of. Secondly, what this also implies is that sometimes the only way not to be complicit or a part of a problem is not to act at all. Sometimes when we act, no matter which side we are on, we are in a grand play that was always already determined. What Inside is actually saying is that sometimes perhaps the most humane or responsible thing to do is not act at all. And this is reflexivity. Our very presence changes the course of actions, for better or worse. What we learn from this is that we are never neutral beings in any event, and all our actions have real political consequences, whether we like it or not. The brilliance of Inside is in its nuanced layering of these elements, so that one is never told what to think, but experiences how to think. From the grand vast ritual of this strange fascist-like society, through to our own implications with it. Inside is an amazing piece of art that should be played not only as a game, but read as a reflexivity essay in how we view immigrants, the poor, and our own implications and compliance with greater yet hidden social ideas. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for